Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you are watching The World Report. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines. US and Russian officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days, with Donald Trump confirming his participation. Ukraine says it has not been invited, and a Trump envoy states Europe will not have a seat at the talks. Israel and Hamas conduct a major prisoner swap, with 3 Israeli hostages released in exchange for 369 Palestinian prisoners. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrives in Israel, focusing on Trump's plan to remove Palestinians out of Gaza. Lebanon reports 2 deaths in an Israeli airstrike as regional hostilities escalate. Meanwhile, 25 people are arrested after an attack on a UN peacekeeper. At least 18 people are dead and many injured after a deadly stampede in Delhi. Victims of the tragedy were attempting to board a train to attend Indian mega festival Mahakumbh. The 6th Israel-Gaza hostage swap took place on Saturday. Hamas has released 3 Israeli hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The hostages did not look as gaunt as the hostages freed a week earlier. However, Israeli President Isaac Herzog has said the hostages had been forced to endure a despicable and cynical ceremony. On the other hand, 5 of the free Palestinian prisoners were taken straight to the hospital due to reported chronic illnesses. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has arrived in Israel. He will meet with Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the Gaza truce. His first visit to the Middle East comes as President Trump echoed his support for Israel and proposed the takeover of the Gaza Strip. For more on this, we are joined by Professor Ephraim Imbar, President of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, live from Jerusalem. And we're also joined by Professor Rohan Gunaratne, Middle East expert, located in Singapore. And we're also joined by Ali M. Abushbak, independent Palestinian researcher. I want to come to you first, Ali M. Abushbak. What do you think Marco Rubio is obviously going over to Israel for his first state visit today? What do you think will be at the forefront of his mind, and what do you think he'll want to get out of this visit?
Well, thank you for having me. I guess this visit, it will give the Benjamin Netanyahu the green light to go back to the war if Hamas is not going to release all the captive or hostages in one patch. So, and also on the ground that America giving the Israelis more than 1,800 MK-84 bomb as preparing for the war, as preparing to go back to the war. So this, I guess, Palestinian is not optimistic about this kind of visit, and as it will not giving any solution for the war and for the completed or maintaining the ceasefire in Gaza. So, in my opinion, what is going to be happening? We are going through the war again. And this is what the Palestinians are waiting for, what's the time is going to show them. So, as well as since that Israel violated the agreement, the ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel, so the threat on the maintaining the ceasefire is still around and surrounding the complete calm in the area.
Professor Ephraim Imbar, the ceasefire deal goes on another day, but with this comes President Isaac Herzog's criticism of Hamas's handling of these hostages. It describes them as a despicable and cynical ceremony. Can you describe what he meant by this?
Quite clear. Terribly hungry. There was a methodical, systematic campaign of that isn't good enough. None of them received any medicine that was sent by the Red Cross. The Red Cross was not allowed to visit them. They were tortured by Hamas. They came, in a very bad medical condition. And this is indeed despicable. This is precisely why Israel wants to bring back home as many hostages as possible, because every day longer in the tunnels of Hamas in Gaza is a danger to their life. We simply want to save Israelis that were abducted from their homes. Some of them were tortured, some of them, in their villages were murdered, raped. Those atrocities are also part of the hostages. And we simply want to save as many as possible, and if needed, we'll use force to do it.
I wanted, Ali Emma Bushback, I wanted to move on to you now. Obviously, as tensions are, that this ceasefire is still fragile, but it went through with many doubts on that actually happening. Could this latest swap set precedent for further exchanges, or does it increase tensions between Israel and Hamas, do you think?
It's not only between Israel and Hamas, but I guess in the region all. As we said during the war in Gaza, that so many brigades or so many military army, militant group, they involved in the war with Gaza, like Ansarullah al-Houthi, like Hezbollah, like the brigade or Islamic brigades in Iraq. So if there is no solution, so I guess nowadays also Egyptians are starting mobilizing their army in the Sinai desert. So, in my opinion, what will happen? That it will blast all the region, all the area, if we are going to the war again. And also, it seems that the Israeli side is not serious about the ceasefire, since the threat and the propaganda machine that Palestinian, Hamas torturing the hostages. Despite that, there is no any one kind mark of the torturing on the body of the Israelis hostages. So situation is going to blast, and Palestinians are. I told you, are not optimistic about what is happening, especially that Israeli violated that ceasefire. They are not adhere to the agreement ceasefire, like let the mobile home to enter Gaza, and they are not letting the tank to enter Gaza. More than 2,800 more than the quarter of Palestinians' home are completely damaged on the ground. So there is no doubt, but there is a confirmation that the ceasefire is going to fragile, and we are going back to the war, but which that Palestinian doesn't want. I guess Palestinian avoiding this point, and Hamas, in my opinion, they are seeming that they're serious to find a solution, and going for the complete between Israel and Gaza. And Hamas, they are showing, and Egyptian plan for ceasefire, that they show that Hamas, it will not take any part of power in Gaza.
I'm very sorry. We have to move on to our next discussion. We have more news from the Middle East. Lebanon said that more than 25 people have been arrested following an attack by Hezbollah on a United Nations convoy. The attack wounded 2 peacekeepers, including the UN's force's outgoing deputy commander. The statement came from Lebanese Interior Minister Ahmad al-Hajjar after an emergency security meeting. He added that violations would be treated with all seriousness. The UN interim force in Lebanon has also demanded an investigation on the matter. Meanwhile, an Israeli strike on a vehicle in South Lebanon killed at least 2 people and wounded 4, amid a fragile truce between Israel and Hezbollah. The Israeli army said it targeted a senior terrorist from Hezbollah's area unit in South Lebanon. We are once again joined by Professor Ephraim Imbar. We're also joined by Professor Rohan Gunaratna, Professor Ephraim Imbar, there is a ceasefire deal signed here between Hezbollah and Israel. Why is this violence still ongoing, and what does it say about the regional stability of the area?
I think it indicates the anomaly that exists in Lebanon, where the state doesn't have monopoly over use of force. And there is a militia, the Hezbollah militia, which is a proxy of Iran, and it doesn't abide to the ceasefire signed by the Lebanese government with Israel, and even it attacks UN troops because they don't like certain steps taken by the Lebanese government. And also they are violating the agreement as it was agreed with the United States and the Lebanese government. And Israel has no choice but to rectify the situation, to return to the status quo ante. Indeed, there is no normality in this part of the world, where militias like Hamas, like Hezbollah, are operating freely, and we should get rid of them. That's the solution.
Professor Ephraim Imbar, I was wondering, how do you think the Lebanese government balance between its stance between Hezbollah and the international community? We know obviously Hezbollah is in power in Lebanon in a minor way, but how does it balance this with the international community?
I think the Lebanese government gets a lot of money, particularly from the Americans, in order to strengthen its military. Maybe its military is not strong enough to face Hezbollah. But after Israel has weakened the military power of Hezbollah in Lebanon, there might be a possibility that the state will take over. Frankly, I'm not very optimistic, taking into consideration that Iran continues to meddle in the Lebanese affairs, and this is obviously a problem for the Lebanese government and the countries surrounding Lebanon.
Thank you very much, Ephraim Imbar, for joining us on that discussion. We move to more news updates from across the world. Argentina's opposition is considering impeachment for President Milei after he endorsed the failed crypto token S-Liberia. The token's value skyrocketed to $5, then crashed below $1, sparking accusations of a potential rug pull scam. Milei has denied involvement and retracted his support, but opposition leaders, including Leandro Santero, argue that the scandal has caused international embarrassment. Let's take a look at this report.
Argentina's President Javier Milei is facing calls for impeachment after endorsing the failed crypto token Dollar Libra. The token surged to nearly $5 after Milei's endorsement, but plummeted below $1 within hours. This sharp decline raised concerns of a potential rug pull scam, where creators profit before abandoning the project. Milei denied any involvement in the crypto project and retracted his support once he learned more about it. Opposition lawmakers, led by Leandro Santoro, are pushing for impeachment due to the scandal's international fallout. They argue that Milei's actions have caused significant embarrassment for Argentina on the global stage. Accusations of a pump and dump cryptocurrency scandal linked to President Milei's promotion have sparked threats of impeachment from the opposition. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We will now take a look at some news updates from the world of business. The acquisition of Italy's Ilva steel plant is in its final stages, with Baku Steel Company and Jindal Steel International as the top contenders. Baku Steel, partnering with Azerbaijan investment company, has offered around €1 billion, while Jindal Steel has raised its bid to around €200 million, with a promise of €2 billion in future investments. The acquisition will help both companies expand in Europe and strengthen their global presence. Elon Musk announced that xAI will launch its new AI model, Grok 3. Musk claims Grok 3 is the smartest AI in the world, with powerful reasoning abilities and efficient training using synthetic data. He said that the model can refine its own data for logical consistency. This comes amid the rejection of his bid to buy OpenAI's non-profit arm. Intel's rivals and Broadcom are considering separate deals that could split the US chip giant. Broadcom is exploring a bid for Intel's chip design and marketing business, while TSMC is looking at acquiring its manufacturing plants. The discussions are still informal. Intel, once a leader in semiconductor manufacturing, has been struggling financially. Uber is suing DoorDash, accusing it of pressuring restaurants into exclusive deals. The lawsuit, filed in California, claims DoorDash threatened higher commission fees and demotion within its app if restaurants partners with Uber Eats. Uber alleges some businesses abandoned plans to join its platform due to these tactics. DoorDash denies the allegations, calling Uber's claims meritless. Uber is asking the court to intervene and force DoorDash to change its business practices. The European Union is planning to block imports of certain foodstuffs produced under different standards to protect its farmers, following a similar approach to US President Donald Trump's reciprocal trade policy. The European Commission is set to explore tougher import restrictions next week. Early targets could include US crops like soybeans grown with pesticides banned in the EU. Canadian banks and federally regulated financial institutions must now disclose the diversity of their boards and top management under new rules aimed at increasing transparency and representation. Canada's financial watchdog will enforce the rules. The implementation remains uncertain with upcoming leadership changes and elections. Sudan's civil war has led to another devastation. According to the reports, the paramilitary rapid support forces have wreaked havoc on Zamzam, the country's largest refugee camp. Here is a full report.
Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces have devastated Zamzam, the country's largest refugee camp, with indiscriminate attacks that left at least 7 dead and 40 injured. The camp, home to nearly 500,000 displaced people, is already struggling with famine. Medicines Sans Frontières, operating one of the last healthcare facilities, has been overwhelmed by the casualties. Once a refuge for those fleeing violence, Zamzam has faced constant assaults since December 1st, with artillery strikes killing and injuring dozens. According to multiple reports, nearly half of the camp's central market was burned. The RSF and its rival, the Sudanese Armed Forces, have been locked in a brutal civil war since April of 2023. Since then, the RSF has been campaigning to capture Al-Fasher, the last remaining SAF stronghold in the region 15 kilometers north of Zamzam. However, this is the first time that RSF fighters appear to have entered the camp. Bureau Report, NewsX.
And that is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from across the world.